Hi, I'm sorry I haven't been available for a little while. I've been a little bit unwell. There's a cold or a flu going around, certainly not COVID, but it's enough to lay people low for 3 or 4 weeks, some of them. And, I've been, one of the things is being tired, and I'm pretty good at being tired anyway, so I haven't really been out and about to film anything. So I thought maybe this week I'd just tell you a couple of stories, from when I was about 15. I call it a wrong decision, or a couple of seconds can change your life. And it's just some examples that have happened to me over the time where things have happened. There's been lots of things, but these sort of stick out in my mind the most. When I was 15, I worked with a guy. We got on really well. He'd just come back from Borstal, which is sort of the pre-jail thing for people that are a bit young. He'd served a year. It was for driving offences. It wasn't anything seriously violent or anything like that. But the roommate that they put him in with, he came from the same area as what we did, and he later became the leader of the local nomad gang in the area, and he was a pretty big guy, and no one sort of messed with him. So having that contact and that sort of history and things like that, we could go to parties wherever we wanted, really, and there wasn't any problems with anything. I remember one party we went to. It was on the main road. It was, I'll call him the host, but he wasn't particularly bright or anything. He was in his late teens, and I think he thought that perhaps he could make a name for himself or get in with the in crowd or something like that if he had an open house party, and anyone who wanted to go could go. It was his grandmother's house, and she was away, so being the idiot that he was, he thought, it'll be a perfect time to have everyone around, and maybe I'll make some big mates or something like that. It was a pretty wild party. There was some fairly big guys there, some pretty scary guys and things like that. I remember at one stage someone got run over by a motorbike, but the thing was they were asleep on the hall floor at the time. All sorts of things were going on. There was quite a bit of damage done to the house. Of course, I didn't have anything to do with that. I wasn't really interested in that at the time, but we were sort of mucking around, having a good time, talking to everyone, and about 2 o'clock, the host decided it was time for everyone to go home, and no one was that keen on going home, it was early. So he, from somewhere, produced a 303 rifle and started waving it around and threatening people and stuff like that. He walked into the dining room where I was, and my friend that I worked with, that had been divorced, or he was there as well. And my friend, he was drinking from a 40-ounce bottle of Jim Beam bourbon, and as the guy came in and started threatening people with a gun, my friend sort of took a swipe at his head, bounced off the top of his head and hit me right in the temple. Because I was standing beside the guy. I don't know who got dazed the most, me or the other guy, but as it happened, the guy sort of, he wasn't really with it for a few seconds, and in that time my friend, he he grabbed the rifle off this guy and stuck it in his face and kept pulling the trigger, you know, trying to make it work and trying to work everything. It wasn't for a little while that he realised that there was no bolt in the gun and it wouldn't have fired anyway. But he didn't know that, and he was going to kill this guy. And I just think afterwards, you know, it didn't take much, did it? You know, just a bad decision by my friend, and a really bad decision by the host. You know, of course it didn't end well for him after that, because you don't go around threatening those guys with a gun and then stand up and say, oh well, I was sorry about that, we'll forget it, shall we? You know, yeah, my friend and I left not too long afterwards, but him being a reasonably big guy, we were walking out to the gate and I was walking behind him, and because he was so drunk, he tripped backwards and fell into me, and fell on top of me into a garden, into a rose bush, and so it didn't end too well for me that night either, because I spent the next few days picking rose thorns out of my butt and my back. But you know, it's sort of that was the worst that happened to me, yeah, that night. But yeah, it just could have changed so much. The same guy, you know, would have been a few months later, we were drinking at a country pub. I'd been drinking rum and raspberry, actually. I used to like that, but I think he was drinking mostly beer, but you know, drinking other things as well. Around closing time for the pub, we heard that there was going to be a woolshed party, that these farmers often had that, you know, just in the woolshed, and put a stereo out there and maybe a barbecue or something like that, and have a few drinks and everyone have a good time. It was a few kilometres away, but it wasn't too far, so you know, there was a group of us, we weren't ones to turn down an opportunity to have a bit of fun, so we all went out to the party, and we were having a great time, you know. Around 3 o'clock we decided it was time to go home, you know. We were all pretty drunk. There was 2 carloads of us, and everyone jumped into one car, and that left my friend and I in the other car. He got into this the driver's seat. Now, you know, I wasn't too happy about this, because I knew he was far drunker than he should have been, you know, to be able to drive and things, but you know, I felt a bit powerless to do much about it at the time. But anyway, I went back to my friends, they were all sitting in the car, and I says, look, you know, you know, some of you come with me as well, you know, and they says, no, you look after him, they says, you know, you'll be alright. I wasn't so sure about that, but anyway, we all drove back. We were on our way home, and it was probably 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess, you know. We were driving along, and we'd gone, I don't know, maybe 2 kilometres before my friend fell asleep. Now, as he fell asleep, his foot went down on the accelerator, of course, and we ran into a little culvert. It was only about that high, and that wide, just a concrete culvert on the other side of the road. That, you know, when we hit it, the body of the car kept going, but the suspension and engine and steering and everything else just stopped. Because that was stopped by the concrete. The car tipped right over on its side like that. I thought it was going to tumble into the creek, but it righted itself. But that had the effect of throwing me right over that side of the car. The friends that we were following, they weren't too far ahead, and they come back to investigate while the headlights, suddenly weren't behind them anymore. And they found my friend in the creek. He would have drowned. He went head first into the creek, still sort of half comatose, and that he would have drowned if they hadn't have pulled him out at that stage. And they sort of chatted to me and made sure I was all right. I wasn't all right. I spent 6 months in hospital, and it was 13 months before I could walk without a walking stick or crutches or anything like that. But I survived, I guess. But I still get problems, daily problems, 50 years after that. So again, what could I have done? Could I have been a bit more forceful trying to drive? Yeah, would it have worked? Could I have just said no, I'm not going, and then be stuck in, maybe 15, 20 kilometres from anywhere in the middle of the night? I don't know. At that age and that stage, I just felt, I was trapped in it. But now there's another story I remember. You would think, wouldn't you, that someone that comes that close to sort of ending it all would have a bit more sense than to go around going in cars with people driving crazily and things like that. But no, not me. I'm just a tiger for being an idiot. But probably 2 years, maybe 3 years later, I was in a car with another friend. This friend, his car, we worked out on the revs, how many miles an hour he was doing per 1,000 revs and all this sort of stuff, with all these calculations and that, and it was capable of over 100 miles an hour, or over 160 kilometres an hour, and we were probably doing that side by side with another car that was the same, racing it. We were coming up to a bridge, and we're sort of side by side like that, and as we got to the bridge, around the corner came another car. The speed limit there was, I'm not sure, it was 50 miles an hour, 80 k's an hour, or whether it was 100 k's an hour, 60 miles an hour. But he was doing at least that, this other guy, and I just, all I can remember is the smoke just pouring off the tyres of the car in front of us in the same lane as us, that was innocently just driving along, and the car that we were racing that just smoked for miles. There was no such thing as ABS back in 1973 or whatever it was. But my friend, he had the presence of mind to keep his foot flat to the floor, and he just managed to squeeze in between the cars and get over the bridge. As soon as he was over the bridge, he went around the first corner, on a side road, and just got out of the car, and he couldn't stop shaking for about half an hour. It was something that wasn't very nice. I mean, I'd had quite a few car accidents and things that happened to me. I didn't quite think so much of it, but my friend certainly did. But again, if either driver didn't jam the brakes on, and maybe if my friend had jammed the brakes on, it would have been a multiple fatality. It would have been at least, 250 kilometres an hour into a solid brick wall equivalent. And, probably everyone would have died or would have been very close to it. So, there's things you sort of have to think about, isn't there? Of course, I don't drive like that nowadays. I'm a lot more sensible, and I don't go out and get in wild parties or anything anymore. In fact, I'm sit there with the best of them and shake my head and tut about things and that. But really deep down inside, I know I was just as bad or worse than that, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. But you can't always be bulletproof. Now and again, there's a few friends died in their teens and things, especially in cars and things like that. But I was fine at the end of it. I was a bit sort of knocked around and stuff, but things happen, and that's the way it goes, I suppose. Hey, well, thanks for watching this. Don't forget to subscribe and like and everything else. I'll try and do a much better video next time, and I'm feeling a lot better, so maybe I'll get out and about and do a bit of stuff. Okay, thanks a lot.